Hi friends, and welcome back into my studio. If you are new here, my name is Tammy Ernest and I am a Longarm quilter. And here on my channel, I like to share customer finishes as well as my own personal projects. So today's video is being sponsored by Craftsy. Craftsy is an online community where members can find inspiration, advance their skills in certain areas, or find a new hobby. There are over 2,000 classes on Craftsy in the categories of like quilting and sewing, knitting, crocheting, painting, drawing, cooking, all of these. And so some classes that have caught my eye recently are Amanda Murphy teaches a class on embellishing your quilts using your embroidery machine, which I'm sure most of you already have sitting in your sewing room. So it's so fun. She uses her embroidery machine or the embroidery that's on your sewing machine and either creating blocks or creating embellishments for your quilts. It's a super cool class. There's also one taught by Heather Thomas about finishing the edges of your quilts. Are you kind of bored with doing the normal binding? She talks about 10 ways that you can finish the edges of your quilts, including facing, which I have never done. And I hear a lot about, so I'm going to have to try that. But 10 different ways you can finish your quilts around the edges, sometimes to add more bling if you want to do that, sometimes a facing, just something a little different. So those are a couple classes that have caught my eye recently that I will be watching here very soon. Craftsy classes are taught by industry experts, like I just mentioned, Amanda Murphy or Heather Thomas. They are broken down into step-by-step instructions. You're able to watch it from wherever you are if you have access to your computer. But Craftsy is sponsoring my video today, and they are offering the first 1,000 subscribers who click the link down below. You will receive the full year premium membership to Craftsy for 1 year for only $1.49, and you cannot beat that. So click on the link down below. You'll get the full year of a premium membership to Craftsy for only $1.49, and you can learn all of these fun classes as well. So much inspiration there. You can take all kinds of classes. Like I said, over 2,000 different classes, so you'll want to check that out. I appreciate Craftsy for sponsoring my video today. I also wanted to share with you today my progress on this Scrappy Americana quilt. This is a quilt along put on by the Fat Quarter Shop and obviously designed by Lori Holt. So the way that they have structured this quilt along, it's once a month you're doing a set of 12 blocks, some red and some white. So it's a super easy quilt along to follow along with. So let me show you this month. We were supposed to do diagonal stripe blocks, and let me show you some of mine. So it uses 2 fabrics. And this is 2 of the reds. So you're making half square triangle units and then you're joining it together into a 4 patch. So those are the red ones. I did make 6 of those. And then here are the white ones. A little more creamy than white. So 2 low volume prints, one with the red and blue polka dots and the others with the lighter blue print there, and I made 6 of those. So each month you're only making 12 blocks. It's super simple. It's not a difficult quilt along to keep up with at all. I saw Christy on Crosshatch Quilts. She's already done a lot of her blocks, and I'd love to do that, get a little bit ahead. So fun. So there are still kits available for this, or you can just download the pattern. If you want, you can download the pattern. You can also purchase the pattern. Either way, it just depends if you want to wait for it to have it shipped to you or if you want to download it yourself. It is a 22-page booklet. So just remember that if you're going to print it off as a PDF. But what I did find is that Fat Quarter Shop has put out a free PDF that gives you all the fabric requirements. So you could do this super scrappy from your own scraps. I'm sure you have reds, I'm sure you have blues, I'm sure you have low volumes. And so this is a 3-page PDF. The back page tells you the schedule. Like I said, it's only 12 blocks each month, so we've done 3 sets already, and you could certainly catch up. So here is the schedule. The second page of the PDF is the fabric requirements. It does list Lori Holt's SKUs using her line Americana. But if you're wanting to do just from your own scraps, then it tells you how much of each different colors you're needing. So because it's scrappy also, it doesn't, so like it says 5/8 yards of all of these different reds and blues right here, 1/2 yard of these right here, but there is no reason that you had to make all 6 of these red ones out of the same fabrics. So if you wanted to do, you know, a couple different reds, if you're wanting to go through your reds and get through a lot of reds, it doesn't necessarily mean that these all have to be made out of the same thing. If you follow the fabric requirements, then that's what you would have for this. You can just assign your fabrics to the fabrics that are listed on this, and then when that SKU is called for in the pattern, you just pull out the fabric that you have instead. Or you can just look at the blocks each month and say, I need this size of square, I need to stitch it with this size of a different square, or, you know, a different pattern, and make them super scrappy. So that's totally possible as well. Now this free PDF you could print off, and then you would need to buy the pattern in order to do the entire quilt along. But you want to grab a hold of that. I think this is a quilt along that everybody could be a part of. If you're wanting to do the Americana fabrics, they're super cute. I really, really like the fabrics that Lori did this time. You can buy the kit, or you can buy the Americana fabric line, your favorite colors if you want it. And it could be done in all the same reds, I guess. They're all different blocks, so they would hit at different, it's kind of better scrappy. That kind of matches the name, Scrappy Americana, right? All right, I did want to mention something else that I found on Fat Quarter Shop. We were talking maybe last week when we were talking about the Civil War quilts, and if you remember, that one of them was, I should have brought this with me. It's the Barbara Brackman book, if I remember correctly, the Civil War pieces. And that quilt that I showed you last week from Sue was all set on point, and I mentioned the setting triangles, and I know I've mentioned it even in weeks prior to that about setting triangles and how you cut those. I found a free PDF on the Fat Quarter Shop that tells you, if you want to set something on point, the size of the setting triangles that you need to cut. Great information here. So it lists 2 different ways. It lists the traditional method and then what Kimberly likes to cut. And in looking at it, she likes to cut bigger and then trim down. Nothing wrong with that. But down the side here, it shows you the size of your blocks. So if you have, if your blocks that you're setting on point are 1.5 inches square, then it tells you the side setting triangles, the size of the fabric you need to cut for that, and then how to subcut that. The corner settings, which would be the 4 corners, because those are different than they're smaller than your setting triangles. The size that you need to cut for those, and then how to subcut those. And then down this other side, the pink lines, it tells you that same information, but how Kimberly would cut it. And it goes from 1.5 inch block sizes all the way up to 20-inch block sizes. So this would fit any quilt that you want to set on point, and you have your the size of your finished blocks that you're setting on point. This would be the setting triangles, the ones that go around the edge. Now, if you're new to quilting or you've never done one that's set on point, actually, so when you see a quilt and the blocks are set on point like this, you're actually putting the quilt together in rows in this direction. And then, so on a short row, you may only have 1 block, so you can picture way up in the corner, you may have 1 block. That 1 block that is set on point is going to have setting triangles on either side that are going to be your point of your triangle is actually going to be at the bottom of that block. So say that this block was set on point, I would have a setting triangle that would come out here and down like this, and I would have one on this side that comes down this direction and then is even with that. So you're actually stitching it in this way. So one setting triangle would be here with the hypotenuse. How do you like that math? Geometry. The hypotenuse would be here, and the 2 shorter sides of your triangle would be here. On this side, the hypotenuse would be here, and the 2 shorter sides of your triangle would be here. Those would be setting triangles. If this is your corner block, way up on the very top corner of your quilt, you would have then a smaller triangle right here that is in the 4 corners. This would be one of your corners. So you're actually piecing it in rows in this direction. It's just your last units of your row are triangles. Then you would piece that whole quilt together in rows but then when it's set there, and then when you join them all together, because you have triangles on those corners, when it all lines up, it would be even across the top, or you can trim it just to make sure it's all even, but then everything is set on point. So you may want to grab a hold of this PDF, try some on your own, just try some blocks and see how you do. You know, you don't always have to follow a pattern. I understand as a new quilter, and some of us old ones, you know, experienced quilters, we like just to follow a pattern and make it easy. But so many of you are so talented, and you come up with designs, or you want to tweak a pattern to fit what you like. And this is a way to do it. Maybe you want to set something on point, and you can use EQ8, and I have EQ8 and I have used it for some designs, but this is another way that if you're just wanting to set, maybe you find some orphan blocks and you're wanting to set them on point. Maybe you find some antique blocks and you're wanting to set them on point in a setting. This would be a great PDF to grab a hold of and be able to plan that out for yourself. So some fun information if that can be a help to you. I hope it is. And the Scrappy Americana, I had that upside down. Scrappy Americana, if you want to grab a hold of that pattern, that'd be great. And join me. If you're joining in on this quilt along, will you put it in the comments below so I can see how many of you are sewing along with me? I'm enjoying this quilt along very much. So how about we move on to some customer quilts? This is Lisa's quilt, and this is called Irish Weave, and it is in the book Celebrate with Quilts. That book was done by Lisa Alexander and Susan Aki. She has used Shoreline fabric from Camille Roskelley and a mixture of her other lines, but what she's done is pulled out just the greens from Camille Roskelley's prints. So cute. So there are 16 blocks. Every block is the same. You can see we have a square and a square. We have tiny little pieced blocks that gives us this Irish chain type of look. Around that, some other intricate blocks, rectangles with, no, those are half square triangles. Super cute, super cute. So you wouldn't need huge, large pieces of any fabric. This right here is probably the largest one. That's probably like a 3-inch square. So if you're creating half square triangles units, that may be the largest piece you need, because the rest of them are smaller, 2-inch by 3-inch rectangles, things like that, and even smaller pieces here. So every block is the same, 16 blocks. Now Lisa has chosen a different fabric for each one of the blocks. The background print is all the same. It is a solid white color. Then she has used a stripe for her sashing. You can see the stripes, very cute. She has oriented all of the ones, the horizontal striping, she has done that with vertical stripes. The vertical sashing she has done with the horizontal stripes. Very cute. So the way that's done is she's cutting all the strips the same, but when you're putting them in the vertical, they have a horizontal. When you're putting them in the horizontal, they have a vertical. And then around that, so again, she did repeat that sashing around the outside of the blocks, and then put a large border around the outside edge. This is one of Camille's larger florals as the outside edge. And then on the back, another Camille print, very dainty, and the green and white, just so pretty, so pretty. This quilt measures 72 by 72, so a nice square quilt. For the pantograph, we chose Clamshell Duchess. So Clamshell has the clamshell look, but underneath that you have this nice fan, and I hope you can see that. Let me pull it in a little closer. So a classic clamshell design, which just has, it's like the arching rainbow type, and then underneath that they have the nice fan. This does have some pretty heavy overstitching where all of those points come down here into the bottom. Not anything bad, it doesn't make it super thick or anything, but just know that all of these fan pieces coming down, they all come straight over those same lines. So there is some overstitching right there. I did use the Omni Natural White thread on this one. That blends perfectly with it. My fan design is about 4 inches tall, I would say. So pretty. Just keeps this with that clamshell Duchess design, just makes it a very classy looking quilt, very sophisticated. I really like it. So that's Lisa's first quilt. Let me share her second one. Lisa's second quilt is actually a free pattern. This is called Village. This is available on the Fat Quarter Shop website. This is called Village, and Jumble by Miss Rosie's Quilt Company. This uses charm packs. A charm pack or a charm square is a 5-inch square. So yes, you can buy charm packs, but I think this is also a great scrap buster. All you need is 5-inch squares. And you can see it doesn't even, I mean, you can have one 5-inch square of each fabric and totally make a beautiful quilt. So you are using one 5-inch square to cut the roof and part of the door. So you can see right here, the roof and part of the door right here. Another 5-inch square is used to make the two sides of the house. This final piece that's right here in the center, that is, you cut 4 of those pieces from a charm square, and then you're using those throughout the quilt. So the roof and the roof and part of the door is made with one charm square, the two sides from a second charm square, and then this print in the middle is, you cut 4 of those from a charm square. Then the background fabric, you could do it all of the same, or you could do it scrappy like Lisa has done. She's done all scrappy behind hers. A great use of your low volumes. Most of hers are white low volumes. She does have a couple grays in there as well, but just using a lighter color so that your houses really stand out. Now Lisa has grouped this together by colorway, so you can see right here, mostly Camille Roskelley fabrics, a little bit of a Cori Yoder fabric in there, and then a lot of these fabrics I see from other quilts that she has made, and she's kind of grouped them together by color scheme. So here we have pinks and greens, here we have the darker blues, here we have mostly aqua ones. You can see across the top some of the different colorways, and that's really cute way to do it. And then also in the fabric or in the pattern, they give you a layout, how to assemble the quilt with all of the houses. So notice we've got 2 houses here, and then there's a bit of sashing. We have 4 houses here and a bit of sashing, 3 houses and a bit of sashing, 3 houses. And so that's changed up so all of our houses aren't stacked right on top of each other. Notice how this is offset just a little bit, this house underneath it. And we're creating that by adding just a little bit of sashing in every once in a while. So here we have 5 houses and a little bit of sashing, 2 houses. And that keeps it from just being everything stacked right on top of each other. Very, very cute. I really like that. So Lisa's quilt measures 69 by 76. I've also done one of these, I think in reproduction fabrics, didn't I? A while back. Time flies. I would say, oh, a couple months ago, but it's probably been a year ago. But this is a free pattern. And so download the free pattern, use up your scraps. It starts with 5-inch squares, but you wouldn't even, as long the measurements are in there. So if you're starting with 5-inch squares, it shows you how to cut the roof piece and the other pieces. But really you could do it with just scraps, even if you have smaller than that. You're really just needing smaller pieces, and you can group them together. It does look nice when the house has, at least the sides are the same, even if the door doesn't always have to match the roof. I mean, you can totally do it scrappy. So for the pantograph on this one, we chose Mini City of Fountains. This is a pantograph by, oops, my pattern just fell. This is a pattern by Julie Hurt. Julie has an Etsy site called 627 Handworks. I would say most of her designs tend towards the modern side. I like her designs. She's one of my favorites. So kind of like a Baptist fan, but it's elongated vertically, okay? And so a little bit more like a rainbow. So you can see like on this house right here, here is, so Mini City, mini, M-I-N-I, mini city of fountains. So almost like a fountain or a rainbow is what I pictured as. But if you can picture a Baptist fan just elongated vertically. I did use the Omni natural white thread on this one. All the background prints are the white, and so it just looks really cute. I like this design. I like this pantograph with house quilts especially. I just think it's really, it adds a nice feature. It's a little more modern than a Baptist fan pantograph, but still keeping it the focus on the houses. You know, we've got that rainbow shape or that fountain shape behind it. I just think it's a nice addition to house quilts. I really, really like it. So, and then the backing fabric, I don't think I showed you that one. She's got a nice blue. I don't know that if I have the selvage, I will put this in the description down below to tell you what that is. So it's kind of a batik kind of looking, different mottled colors in there from greens to blues, but a rose print there. Very pretty. So that's Lisa's Village quilt. If you need a scrap buster, this is a great one, and it's a free pattern. So love it, love it, love it, Lisa. This is Terry's quilt, and it measures 49 by 61. This pattern is called Snowdrift, and it was in the December 2024 Sew Sampler box from the Fat Quarter Shop. The fabric on this one is a Camille Roskelley line called Rosemary Cottage. This one has 6 fat quarters, if I remember right, and they do sell that as a smaller bundle, or you can get the entire fat quarter bundle as well. So 6 different fat quarters from that line, and then the background print is a like a lattice work, tone on tone white. So when you get in close, you can kind of see that lattice work there. And then there's an outer border, all from the Rosemary Cottage line. And then the backing fabric is also from that. Isn't that pretty? So I like this line. It has the light blues, the dark blues. It has the mauve-y pinkish color there, as well as the greens. So pretty. Now the pattern, this pattern is not available as far as I know, because it wasn't a Sew Sampler box. I really don't know if at some point the patterns that are in a Sew Sampler box, if they get released later on. I will go back and look and see if there happen to be any of these boxes left. Since it's been, you know, a good 6 months, I would doubt it. But if so, I will link that down in the description below so you could grab yourself one. But as far as I know, that's the only way to get a hold of one of these patterns. So you could always, I don't know, check somewhere, check with your friends if they get the Sew Sampler box and have not done this pattern. You might be able to get it that way. But you see the pinwheel right here. Now normally pinwheels are created with half square triangles. This one is not. It's actually, when in looking at the pattern a little closer, there are rectangles in here with easy corner triangles on the edge, and it's very interesting. I love a pattern like this because the designer has really spent some time in coming up with a new block and manipulating blocks and where you put those easy corner triangles. So I can see a rectangle here with an easy corner triangle, a rectangle here with an easy corner triangle. Then actually this is a rectangle this direction with 2 easy corner triangles. Then we have a block here and a rectangle here. So I'm starting to see a pattern here and how that fits together. And then for the cornerstones, we have these lighter blue pinwheels. Again, they are not created with half square triangles. They are on rectangles that then come together in those blocks. So the block is actually, the entire block is right here, with the lighter blue in it. That is part of that block. When you join that block with this block, so notice like this dark blue block, we have this lighter blue triangle right here. That same lighter blue triangle is right here on this mauve color block, And then when you join those blocks together, that's when you're creating that pinwheel design. But each one of those little blue half square triangles, they're not actually half square triangles, but they're on the corners of those 4 blocks. So when you put that together, you get that pinwheel design, which creates your secondary pattern there. So, so cute. I really love it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's 12 blocks total. That's the size of your block. Then there is a white border, inner border, and then the dark blue outer border. And then, like I showed you, the background fabric, or the backing fabric. So for the pantograph on this one, I did use an Omni natural white thread. Everything's white, the background is white, the backing fabric is white, and so the white is the perfect choice for that one. For the pantograph, I used this one called Giggle. Probably stitches out that direction. Yep. So Giggle is nice and chunky. It has so a little bit of a spiral, but not anything too tight. So a lot of these patterns are very similar, and I use different ones on different quilts. They have some similarities, but they're all just a tad bit different. So on some of the other ones, Mistletoe or Espresso, they're a little smaller. You know, a little skinnier, I guess, in your swirl. Some of them have a lot tighter swirls and come in. Some of the swirls come to a point like this one does. Others don't come to a point. They're more rounded in the middle. And this one I like. It feels playful to me, and I like the chunkiness of it. It does have a small point, but the swirl is not super big on this one. So you have lots of paisley designs. Nice big paisley there, a paisley here, and between the 2 swirls. I just really like this design. So on this quilt, that's about the size. The size you see here is about the size that I stitched it out, and I think it's so cute. So the pattern name is Snowdrift, and it was out in the December box, so you might think kind of winter. The pattern or the fabrics really don't remind me of winter. You've got florals in here. So I didn't feel like I needed to go with a winter theme pantograph on it. I just did something, and I didn't do flowers either. So kind of swirly. You've got lots of sharp points in this, and so just something kind of swirly, soften it up, and kind of bridge the gap between the florals and then what you might picture as more of a snowflake type block. So we've got florals on one end, you know, and we've got these sharp points of snowdrift type of block or snowflake type of block. And by adding something spiral in the middle, not super spiral, you know, not really tight spirals, but a little bit of chunkiness, a little bit of movement there, and it really kind of bridges the gap between the florals and the sharp points of this, and just keeps just blends it nicely together. So 40, what did I say? 49 by 61. This is Terry's quilt, and it's just really cute. I didn't realize when I was starting to film today that my sweater actually matches both of these quilts. So very cute. This is Elizabeth's quilt, and the pattern is called Piece of Cake 3, a simple layer cake quilt. And this is a pattern done by Camille Roskelley. This is a PDF pattern, so when you purchase it on the Fat Quarter Shop, you can download it right then. So this does use a layer cake. A layer cake is 10-inch squares, and it says it used 38 of them. To be honest, I think a layer cake has 42 squares. Or maybe they vary. I'm kind of thinking they have 42 squares. So for this one, you'd use 38. So it's very convenient to buy a fabric line that has, it's all coordinating prints, and you buy a layer cake, everything goes together, but you can totally cut this from your scraps. If you want to go one color, say you want to do pinks, you could do a lighter pink, a darker pink, different kinds of pinks, and then a background fabric for your sashing, and put those in combinations of different ones where you have a light and a dark so you get the contrast there. You could do this all in one color, or you can just buy a layer cake that's already curated for you in a certain fabric line. So the fabric line that Elizabeth used is Jelly and Jam. That is a Fig Tree Quilts line, and it looks like a Fig Tree Quilts, doesn't it? You can just see her fabrics in there. So the reds are kind of an orangey red, and then you have greens, some melony type of, kind of reminds me of melon type of color, and then you have some lighter browns with that, some lime greens. Very pretty palette, a very soft palette, summertime feel is what it gives to me. So a layer cake, it looks like you're cutting that in strips. I've not seen the pattern. Notice that the block here, this part of the block, this section is much larger. The rest of these look about the same. Is that the way it is on all of them? Yeah, you have one section that's larger, and then the next 4 sections are smaller. And I'm just trying to see the fabrics and where they're used. So I really don't know from the pattern if you are doing 2 at a time, if you're combining different colors, or you're cutting the strips and then swapping. I don't know how it's done. It looks like the block then here is a rectangle. This one is running vertically. Notice this one is running horizontally. And then the block actually has the sashing in it. So this rectangle block, there's a sashing below it and below it. Now notice this is the same block, it's just turned vertically, and then the sashing strips are a part of that block. So the block is actually right here. So when you have it vertically, your white strips or your background strips are on the top and the bottom. When you then switch that so that the stripes run horizontally, then your background strips are on the left and the right. And that's what's creating the sashing in between. So cute. And then you get, by doing that, you know, the blocks are the same size, but you get the horizontal, or this rectangle is elongated in the horizontal, but the stripes run vertical. So it's a little shorter than this one here, and I like that. That kind of gives you a, it's a nice contrast. You know, everything's not, it's on a grid, and the block, it's set in a block fashion, but with your eye, you're seeing it like it's nested together. You know, like this block is nested up into this block and that kind of thing. It's really cute. So a layer cake, and then you do use, let me see what additional, so 1 1/4 yards of your neutral fabric, which is the background print here, a border fabric, a binding fabric, and your backing fabric. So for the backing, Elizabeth chose a minky. Isn't this so pretty? I love the minky on the back. This minky, I believe, is cappuccino. It's a little darker than the sand, so I don't know. You can't quite see. Over the top of the long arm is where I have my minkies back there. And I don't know if you can see the sand color that's back there. It's almost the same color as the wall, actually. And so the sand color is a little lighter than this. So I really think this is cappuccino. There's another one that's caramel that's very close, but it looked a little richer color. I don't know, a little more caramely color. I think this is the cappuccino. I like this color. Still a light brown, and it matches very well with the fabrics on the front. You can see the browns that Fig Tree Joanna has put in her fabric line, in the Jelly and Jam fabric line, and so that brown matches really nicely. So I think this also shows off the pantograph super well. So this pantograph is called Buzzy Bees. Isn't this adorable? I love the chunkiness of these bees. You know, I just had the thought, Quilt Circle, we're doing the Quilt Bee Sampler quilt. For our block of the month, our quilt along for this year, this would be a super cute pantograph on there, because there's a big block that has a great big bumblebee on there. So any Quilt Circle members that are watching, this would be a great pantograph to use on that quilt. So Buzzy Bees, so nice chunky wings on the bumblebee. I love the antennas. Again, they're just nice and chunky, a good shape to them. The body of it has the stripes built into the bumblebee. It's so cute. And then it spins out, does a tight, tight swirl right there, echoes back on itself, just like it's flying around. It is just the cutest, cutest pantograph. So I did use the Omni Natural White thread on this one. On the front, the background fabrics are white, and with the Minky, you don't see the color at all. All you're seeing is the texture of that Pantograph. A Minky is just tall enough that the threads just soak right into that material, and you just see texture there. So you don't have to switch the thread color on the back. You're not seeing any thread on the back at all, just the texture of it. So Buzzy Bees. This one is about probably 4 inches tall. Super cute. I love that. This would be really cute Pantograph on a baby quilt also. Any Winnie the Pooh quilts I think would be really cute with honey pots or things like that. I love this Pantograph. I love the chunkiness of that Buzzy Bee right there. So that is Elizabeth's quilt. Did I tell you the size of this one? Measures 64 by 75. So a great quilt, great summertime quilt. I think that's really, really cute. This is Christine's quilt, and this is from Pat Sloan's quilt along called What's in Your Closet. And I have linked to this specific block. Christine only used one of the blocks from that, but every block that Pat Sloan put out had something to do with what you might find in your closet. This block was called Scarves. This is block number 3, and this is a free PDF that you can print off, as well as all of the other blocks as well. So Christine put it together though, and notice what happens. So here is, you can see here's one block of those, here's a second block, here's a third one, here's a fourth one. When you put all 4 together, notice the big square that you get. But then when you put one beside it, here we have 3 of the blocks, 1, 2, 3, and it looks like it's behind this one. And then you see another one there, another. It is just so cool. Quilting is so fun because you can have one block. Looks fairly simple, doesn't it? It's like this is. I haven't looked at the sizes of it. You're starting with a 4.5 inch square, and you're adding. I mean, it's like a modified log cabin. You're only doing it on one side. So here's your 4.5 inch square. You're adding a 4.5 inch strip here. You're adding a gray strip here. Then you do a blue and a blue, a gray and a gray, and you end with a blue and a blue. Simple block. And it looks great in the sampler that Pat Sloan did, but it also looks great when you can coordinate it like this and have this cool looking pattern that's an optical illusion. It looks like the squares are sitting on top of each other. Very, very cool. So this is a free PDF, like I mentioned. In the back, on the very last page of it, Pat has included a coloring page. So here you can see the setting where all of the blocks are the same direction, and that's even kind of cool. And then down here, it's hard to see right here, but if you colored that with 2 colors, very similar to Christine's, then you would have that illusion of some of the squares being behind and others in front. Very, very neat. And here is also in that PDF, it's like a 4 or 5 pages that is just for this one block. And there you can see it colored in, just in black and white. Very, very fun. All right, so the fabrics that she used on this are Pietra marble, and there is a whole line of that Pietra, P-I-E-T-R-A line. It looks like marble. This one is called Mediterranean. The gray is called Concrete, but there are all different colorways of this, however you want to look, whatever color scheme you're wanting to do. I think this gives it a very manly, masculine look. I like this. Not solid colors, but it gives that illusion of solid colors. And then when you get in closer, you can see the veining like in a marble. It's very much more noticeable on the blue because the marbling is white. On the gray, it's not so pronounced, but it's still there. Very nice. The backing fabric that she used, this is a line called Glaze, and this is a 108 backing. This is found on, at least Christine found it on Blank Quilting. And again, this specific one is called Earth, and I didn't see this one on the website. This one has blues and browns in in it. The colors I saw in there are black and gray, brown and gray. They had 4 or 5 different colors, but not this one specifically. I like the introduction of the browns in this. Very similar colors, but adding that brown in there just changes it up a little bit, and it's very, very nice. Pantograph on this one. Christine sent me, she's been looking on Urban Elements, and she picked out pantographs. I love this. I love to try new pantographs. And I always like it when the client can recommend ones that they like. And Christine gave me 3 different ideas. Her first one being Retro Lines #2, and that's what this one looked like. Now, she said there was a caution on the Urban Elements website that this had a lot of overstitching, so it may not be one that a new quilter would do. In looking at it, it's not that bad. The overstitching is actually because what happens is, as it's stitching, it'll come into this, say right here, this intersection, and it goes up and it comes down, and then it comes up and does this little line here, and then it stitches back over that line in a vertical seam right over that same line to then move over to this one, and then it'll go up and then it'll go over. So every line it's going up and back, over and back, and then it's moving on to the next section, and then it's going over and back. So almost every line is stitched twice. Now, as long as you don't bump your machine while it's stitching, there really is no problem, because it's traveling on the same lines that it just came on. When I find trouble with overstitching is when more so in older things. I don't see it too much anymore, but it's when, specifically like Baptist Fan, when they would have the second row actually stitch over the same lines. So if you can picture Baptist Fan with the bottom half of the rainbow, or the bottom half of the fan was just stitched, like it would come down and stitch over and go back up, stitch over and come back up, and then the next line they would have it do like that whole bottom one, and it had to fit exactly on top of the rainbow things coming down, the fan parts coming down. That next row had to stitch across exactly. Those are one of those. I don't use those anymore. There's actually one on Pro Stitcher that works that way. The fan is tipped sideways. I do think it's called Baptist Fan, but the fan is tipped sideways. And that one, for it to stitch out the way it shows, that second row is actually stitching over the bottom line of row #1, and I never liked that. Even when I did that one, I've now switched to the Easy Baptist Fan by 3 Sisters. I like that one better, and that one's programmed in a way that the second row does not stitch over the first row at all. But in the one on Pro Stitcher, it does have you, if you do it the way it's shown, it stitches over that bottom line, and I've never been comfortable with that. So even when I have used that one earlier in my long arming journey, I would leave a space there. And so not everybody may not like that look. That's the way I did it. I was not comfortable in trying to get a second row that I was stitching out to go exactly over the first row. This one is not in that way, because it's actually, the overstitching is done in the same pass. Nothing on the second row is stitching over what was on the first row. It is only as it does a line, it goes over and back, down and back, and then it moves to the next one, over, whichever direction it's going is how that's done. So as long as you don't bump your machine, it's fine. Did this in the light gray thread, and again, I like this design. It kind of has like a hashtag type of look to it. I like the straightness. I think it really it keeps with the feel of this quilt, the geometric feel of it. And I like that it's not squares. I like that it's just lines. It was a really good choice. And she had some other good choices too. So, but I really like this one, and I think it was a nice one to use. Size-wise, a little bigger than this, like that you see right here, a little bit bigger. But, and then again, I try to nest up those rows. They don't fit. I did not, so you can see, like it doesn't always show up on camera real well, but I think you can see the red line underneath is actually, so the red line on the top, the red lines on the bottom show the rows above and below. I did try to shrink those down to see if they matched up, and notice like here, This row, the what would be this line right here, as it comes up and meets the other one, it wasn't an exact match. And so then I tried to offset it a little bit so I could bring this up, the next row up a little bit higher into that, and it didn't, I mean, I did a little bit because I wanted it to feel cohesive. I didn't want you to be able to tell where those were. So I did shrink it up just a tad bit, but I did not close it up so much that the second row actually touched the row above it, if that makes sense. I did not bring that bottom, those red lines that you see, I did not bring them all the way up where it would actually touch the horizontal lines in the row above it. So that is Retro Lines number 2. It was a great choice by Christine. Her quilt is beautiful. The final quilt measures 65 by 77, and it's absolutely beautiful. Thank you for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to spend time with you. Hope you got lots of quilting done or cross-stitching done while you were watching today. Hope you found lots of inspiration as well. And if you have made it all the way to the end of this video, first, I thank you very much. Second of all, I just want to let you know I have a very big announcement coming next week. You won't want to miss the video. All right? We'll see you next week. Every quilt is worth finishing, so we'll see you next week.